Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ibnu Mirza Efendi, student ID 2521080 from TBIGC semester 3. In this video, I'll explain and presenting about some theological sects in Islam. I do it in order to fulfill the final task of the final exam task of Ilmu Kalam course, and the several sects that I'll be explained later is including Khawarij, Syiah, Mu'tazilah, Murji'ah, Qadariyah, Jabariyah, Asy'ariyah, Maturidiyah, Wahhabiyah, Ahmadiyah, LDII, and MTR. Okay, let's go to the first sect. Khawarij. According to the term, the word Khawarij comes from Arabic, namely the kharaja, which means to come out, appear, rise, or rebel. Based on the etymological understanding, it means every Muslim who want to get out of the unity of the Muslim Ummah. And therefore, the Khawarij see themselves as a people who left their homes and hometowns to devote themselves to Allah and Prophet. The story of Khawarij emerged because of his justifications with Ali against the civil war between Ali and Muawiyah. That is, when Tafkim was carried out, some of Ali's troops agree while the others didn't. These people who disagree are called the Khawarij. They are out from Ali's troops and they hate him because he is too weak in upholding the truth. Some figures of the Khawarij: Abdullah bin Wahab al-Rashibi, Nafi' bin Qais bin Nahar al-Hanafi, Najdah bin Amir bin Abdullah bin Sa'ad bin al-Mufarrij al-Hanafi. Some doctrines of Khawarij. According to their understanding, there are only big sins. There is no division of big and small sins. All disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the result of great sins and makes them disbelievers. The appointment of the caliph will be valid only if it's based on thoroughly free elections and it's carried out by all Muslims without discrimination. They didn't all agree with the opinion which stated that the caliph must become from the Quraysh tribe. Obedience to the caliph is something that is obligatory as long as it's still on the path of justice and goodness. If it deviates, it's obligatory to fight him, impeach him, or kill him. The second sect is Syiah. The word Syiah is understood by people as a sect that follows Ali and prioritizes over the other companions of the Prophet. The Syiah claim that they emerged when Abu Bakr became caliph, replacing the leadership of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. This is because Syiah have the view that Ali bin Abi Thalib has more rights to replace the Prophet Muhammad as a caliph. Apart from being related by blood, the Syiah school believes that Ali bin Abi Thalib is in line with the instructions given by the Prophet Muhammad during his lifetime. Figures of Syiah: Abu Dzar al-Ghifari, Miqdad bin al-Aswad, Ammar bin Yasir. Some doctrines of Syiah: Tauhid, that Allah is the one and the only. Al-Adl, that Allah is most just. An-Nubuwah, that Syiah believe in the existence of prophets as a messengers from God to mankind. Al-Imamah, that Syiah believe in the existence of priests who always lead the people as the successors to the prophetic message. Al-Ma'ad, that there will be a resurrection day. The third sect is Mu'tazilah. The word Mu'tazilah comes from the word Ittizal, which means spirit. Mu'tazilah is a thought in Islam which is heavily influenced by Western philosophy, so it tends to use ratios as the basis of the arguments. The background to the emergence of Mu'tazilah was in response to the theological problems that developed among the Khawarij and Murji'ah. Due to the Tafkim incident, this group emerged because they differed from the Khawarij and Murji'ah groups regarding the granting of infidel status to those who commit major sins. Figures of Mu'tazilah: Wasil bin Atta, Abu Huzail al-Alaf, Abu Hashim al-Jubai. Some doctrine of Mu'tazilah: At-Tauhid. Mu'tazilah rejects the concept of God having a physical image, and according to him, God can't be seen by the E even in the afterlife. Al-Adl, only God does justice as fairly as possible. God can't be unjust. All of God's deeds are good. Al-Wa'ad wa al-Wa'ad. The Mu'tazila believe that God will thoroughly reward and torment people in the afterlife. However, they deny the intersection or forgiveness on the day of judgment, because according to them, intersection is contrary to the principles of promises and threats. Al-Manzila bainal manzilatain. Sinners are not disbelievers, because they still believe in Allah and His messengers, but they are not believers either, because their faith is no longer perfect. And the last is Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar. The Mu'tazila are of the opinion that the call to do good and prohibition to do bad should be done gently, but at any time, if necessary, with the violence. The fourth sect is Murji'ah. Murji'ah is a group that rules out or spirit charity from faith. So according to them, an act of disobedience doesn't reduce one's faith on the consequence of the punishment for disobedience are postponed until the last day. The Murji'ah sect emerged as a reaction to the attitude that it didn't want to be involved in efforts to concentrate in infidels against people who commit aggressions as did by Khawarij. Figures of Murji'ah: Abu Hasan as-Salihi, Yunus bin An-Namiri, Ubaid al-Muqtab. Some doctrine of Murji'ah: faith is more important than charity. Leave the decision only to Allah for the problem of major sins. A great sinner remains a believer as long as he has faith. The fifth sect is Qadariyah. Qadariyah understanding states that humans have power over his deeds. It's man himself who performs all the good deeds and bad deeds on will. The background to the emergence of this group was also due to the political constellation of the Muslims as a sign of opposition to the cruel and tyrannical political policies of the Umayyah. Figures and society at that time considered that all actions of Muawiyah were their own responsibility. Allah did not interpret. Some doctrine of Qadariyah: 1. Humans have hurriyatul iradah, or a freedom of will, either to do something or leave something. And the second one is, as for the problem of halakul aqfal, or the creation of deeds, Qadariyah says that the actions of servants or humans are created by themselves and derived from their own actions, not from the actions of Allah. Figures of Qadariyah: Mu'abbad al-Jawhani and Kilan al-Dimashqi. The sixth sect is Jabariyah. Jabariyah argues that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone that determines and decides all human deeds. The Jabariyah sect was born in Khurasan, Persia, with its character named Jaham bin Safwan. Another name for Jabariyah is Jamiyah, which is attributed to the name Jaham bin Safwan. Actually, this sect was first initiated by Ja'ad bin Dirham, then later continued by Jaham bin Safwan. Some figures of Jabariyah include Jaham bin Safwan and Ja'ad bin Dirham. Doctrine of Jabariyah: humans are unable to do anything. He has no power, no will of his own. And then heaven and hell are not eternal. And the last one is God's saying is that God does not have the likeness of humans, such as speaking, hearing, and seeing. And God also can't be seen with the sense of the E in the hereafter. The seventh sect is Asy'ariyah. Asy'ariyah took the basis of their belief from Kullabiyah, namely the thoughts of Abu Muhammad bin Kulab in believing in the attributes of Allah. Then the third reason or rationale over the textual basis or nas in understanding the Quran and Hadith. The Asy'ariyah flow originally appeared after the decline of the Mu'tazilah. Existence-based flow had a big influence when the Mu'tazilah experienced significant degradation with minhaj implications. The movement of Ash'ariyah began in the 4th century Hijriah after they were involved in conflicts with other groups, especially with the Mu'tazilah. The flow of Ash'ariyah is a form of understanding that is not one-sided with the flow Mu'tazilah thinking, which is considered to only rely on rationality. This can cause confusion among the people because ordinary people are not be able to think too much rational like to the Mu'tazilah. Figures of Ash'ariyah: Al-Qadi Abu Bakar al-Bakilani, Al-Imam al-Harmain al-Juwaini, Hujat al-Islam al-Imam al-Ghazali. Doctrine of Ash'ariyah: Allah has the properties as mentioned in the Quran, which are referred to as the properties that are eternal, qadim, or does not begin, and remain in the substance of Allah. These characteristics are not God's substance, and they are not other than the substance. The Quran, which is the nature of Allah's work, is qadim and not a created being. God can be seen with human eyes in the afterlife. Human actions are created by God, not created by humans themselves. God has no obligation whatsoever to determine man's place in the afterlife, because all of that is God's absolute will and God Almighty over everything. Humans will commit sins and do not have a time to repent at the end of their lives, are not disbelievers and are still believers. In the hereafter, depending on God's will, sometimes you will receive forgiveness and sometimes you will not be forgiven. If not forgiven, then the person will be tortured for hell and finally put into heaven. The eighth sect is Al-Maturidiyah. The Maturidiyah sect is a theological sect following Abu Mansur Muhammad al-Maturidi. Same as Ash'ariyah, the emergence of Maturidiyah is considered to be a response to the development of Mu'tazilah during the Abbasiyah dynasty. The Mu'tazilah holds the third can be achieved only by reasons or a human reason. Meanwhile, Maturidiyah denied this and proposed the idea that in order to achieve divine truth, a Muslim can only agree to a reason but must accompany rational considerations with the Shariat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Figures of Al-Maturidiyah: Abu Mansur Muhammad al-Maturidi, Abu al-Yus Muhammad al-Badzawi. Doctrine of Maturidiyah: Human reason still needs Islamic law to carry out the obligation commanded by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to His servants. Maturidiyah is in the middle of positions that the embodiment of action is a combination of a creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and human participation in it. And the last one is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will, according to His policy, if Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants to give forgiveness to sinners, then the Almighty will enter His servants into heaven. The ninth sect is Wahhabiyah. Wahhabiyah is a movement that calls for the Islamic faith to be returned to its pure origins and emphasizes the purification of the meaning of monotheism from shirk as its manifestation. Wahhabiyah was founded by Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab with the aim of delivering a pure Islam according to the time of the Prophet. This is because at the time there were many bid'ah and shirk. Figures of Wahhabiyah: Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, Abdul Aziz bin Abdullah bin Baz, and Muhammad bin Salih al-Utsaimin. Doctrine of Wahhabiyah: It's only Allah must be worshipped. Worshipping other than the others is shirk. It's forbidden to visit graves that are considered sainted. Do not believe in the opinion of the ulama as long as they are not based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet as well as taqlid. The 10th sect is Ahmadiyah. Ahmadiyah is a sect in Islam that was founded in the 19th century by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who proclaimed himself as Imam Mahdi and Al-Masih, whose arrival was awaited by Muslims. Figures of Ahmadiyah: Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, Hazrat Hakim Nuruddin, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad. Doctrine of Ahmadiyah: Prophethood in Ahmadiyah are divided into the three categories. First, Prophet Zihab Asyariah, bringing a new Syariah. Second, Nabi Mustaqil Ghairi Ata Syari'i, or continuing the Syariah of the previous Prophet. And the last one is Nabi Zile Ghair Ata Syari'i, because of obedience and following the previous Prophet, as well as the confession of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Wahyu is the word which is conveyed to the recipients, and it's not an inspiration which is then uttered in their own words by the recipients. There are two types of terms denying the Prophet Shari'i. The Prophet who brought the Sharia was different from the Prophet Ummati, the Prophet who followed the Sharia. The 11th sect is LDEE. The LDEE sect was founded by Nur Hasan al-Ubaidah Lubis. The first LDEE was named Darul Hadith in 1951. However, because the teachings of the sect were troubling community, Darul Hadith had changed its name to Islam Jamaah and Lemkari, or Lembaga Karyawan Dakwah Indonesia, and has now changed again to LDEE. Figures LDEE: Nur Hasan al-Ubaidah Lubis, Dr. Andes Nur Hashim, Dr. Andes Adi Masyadi. Doctrine LDEE: Muslims outside their groups are infidels and unclean, including both parents. If there are people outside their group who pray in their mosque, then the place where they used to pray is waste because they are considered unclean. Obligation to obey their emir or imam. The last sect is MTA. The Majalis Tafsir Al-Quran's Foundation, or hereinafter abbreviated by MTA, is an Islamic educational and dakwah institution based in Surakarta, Central Java, and founded by Ustadz Abdullah Tufail Saputra in 1972. The aim is to purify Islam to be guided by the Quran and Hadith. Leaders of MTA: Abdullah Tufail Saputra and Muhammad Fatin Habibullah. Doctrine MTA, or a lesson of MTA. Number one is recitation, Al-Quran Tafsir Conquil, or education and social activities. And the fourth is economic interpretation, Majalis Al-Quran. And the last one is health interpretation Conquil of the Quran. That's all for my explanation. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.